Welcome to Everyday Tarot, your daily dive into the divine wisdom of the tarot. I'm your host, Camille A. Saunders, and today I'm talking about the Five of Wands. Whether you're a seasoned tarot reader or just starting to explore, this podcast offers daily insights, intuitive messages, and practical advice drawn from the cards. Each episode is designed to help you connect with your inner wisdom, find clarity in your decisions, and tap into the energy of the universe. Tune in every day, Monday through Friday, for fresh perspectives and empowering guidance from the tarot as interpreted by me. The best way to support the podcast right now is to listen daily, rate, review, and to follow or subscribe in your chosen podcast app. If you're loving the podcast and want to further support me, you can join my Patreon for behind-the-scenes access to upcoming topics, polls, monthly hangouts, tarot questions, and individual tarot readings, and more. If you're local to the greater Puget Sound area, I'd love to see you at my next Let's Talk Tarot meetup group event. Our next one is coming up on April 14th from 5 to 7 p.m. at the Sumner Library. We'll be crafting our own tarot cards, so come on over for some craft time and to talk tarot. If you don't already know, I'm a sex and relationships therapist seeing clients virtually all over Washington State. I love working with queer, kinky, poly, and witchy clients who might be struggling with anxiety, chronic pain or illness, communication issues, self-advocacy, and sex. You can book a free 20-minute consultation now to make sure that we're a good fit to work together. And if you're interested in my free PDF with the 2025 5-card tarot spread I created just for you at the beginning of this year, you can get that by joining my newsletter list. My weekly newsletter always has the most up-to-date information on my upcoming events, presentations, musings, and info and photos of my day-to-day life. You can find the links for any of these offers in the show notes or on my website, CamilleASaunders.com/everydaytarot, in addition to the images of the cards I pull on each episode. All right, so we're in season 6 now, and I'm talking all about the Suit of Wands, going through each card, one per episode. If you haven't listened to the other seasons yet, you can go ahead and check those out. In the first season, I talked tarot basics. In seasons 2 and 3, I went through the major arcana and the 4 suits, one per episode. In season 4, I talked all about tarot and pop culture. And in season 5, I went through 13 common tarot spreads. Like I said, now in season 6, we're talking all about the Suit of Wands. If you want to hear an episode dedicated to the overview of the Wands suit, you can check out season 3, episode 10. And today I'm talking all about the 5 of Wands. So go ahead, if you have your own tarot deck or decks, flip through and see if you can find your 5 of Wands card and take a look at it. If you don't have one on hand or you're new to tarot, some of the common images or symbols that can be found on the 5 of Wands cards are fire, often something's showing some level of conflict, rivalry, competition. Often there's like a literal crossing of wands. 2 of the cards that I'm looking at right now, 2 depictions of it, have sort of this like diamond shape that gets created in the middle by crossing like wands diagonally and then up and down as well. Almost like the image makes you think of like how you would draw like a butterfly where you have like a thing going down the middle and then you kind of have like the 2 sections of the wings on either side. So imagine that with 5 sticks or wands. So yeah, of the decks I'm going to be talking about today, where if you're on my social media, if you go on my website, you can find the cards that I'm looking at. So I have a couple different decks that I pulled out to pull out the 5 of Wands card. So in my Anima Mundi deck by Megan Wywer-Rendon, this card depicts some, I'll have to look at exactly what creature it is depicting there, but like they look like sheep or Gemsbach, I guess, which sort of look like a gazelle. I think they're in the same sort of family, but they have like the long, straight horns, and they sort of are like ramming heads with each other, like you would see maybe like goats or sheep do as they put their heads down and do that. So yeah, on this card, it depicts 2 of these creatures like literally butting heads, right? Maybe trying to fight for dominance, trying to have, this competition level, and like not backing down. In another deck, the Goddess of Love Tarot deck by Gabriella Herstick and Julia Popescu. It has the 5 wands are depicted as roses or rose stems. And if you think about roses, right, you have sort of the lovely petals at the top, soft and, brightly colored often. The ones in this image are red or like kind of hot pink. But then you also have like the thorny bits of the stem. So, right, roses sort of inherently have this like protection within them as a plant, right, to maybe keep critters from eating them or biting off the flowers or anything like that. And then we have like, there's like flames seated in like each of the rose flowers. So we have this sort of level of like, right, like spark, if you think of like friction, right, if we use the word friction to mean like people are fighting or again, like they're butting heads, we have all these phrases that sort of, right, indicate what other animals do or sort of like the feeling of like competition or again, sort of like rivalry. And then also in this 5 of Wands cards in the Goddess of Love Tarot deck, there's like a snake and it looks like a cobra. And I know that this card in like this deck, they talk about that there's also this like almost this like outer rivalry, but then this like inner fortitude or like peace that you have to have in order to like not sort of like be swayed by that. And so if we think about like cobras, right, like the classic like snake charming example is usually done with cobras. I don't know if anyone's watched like White Lotus this season in Thailand, but some cobras make an appearance. And yeah, and so we think of, right, that like these cobras, right, they are venomous, they bite people, they hiss up, and they're can be kind of, I think, aggressive. Um, but then you also have, right, this sort of aspect of like that they can, I don't know, like be hypnotized or like they can be sort of like in this power battle with like humans where, right, some people are able to like charm them, like snake charmers or sort of not necessarily control them, but like keep them from sort of falling into maybe like a natural state of just being like attack first kind of instinct. And most snakes are not very aggressive. I think there's a lot of different kinds of cobras, so I'm not sure exactly which one this is depicting, but there is this sort of like, okay, like there's potential conflict, right? And like you're kind of ready with your teeth out, ready to maybe pounce if needed. But also it's sort of like I don't know, in relation to other things or other people. And then the last deck I'm looking at, this is the Sassarabito Tarot deck by Stasia Burrington. It again, sort of like the Anamundi deck, has these like wands that are crossing each other and sort of making this like square or diamond image in the middle with the 5 wands sort of all interwoven with each other. And also there's like a lot of fire and like sparks on this card. And it's almost like the fire is like, I don't know, like raining down over top of them. So again, if we think of like sparks or friction or like conflict, right? Like the fieriness of like when you get upset with someone or sort of that kind of thing, like that is what this card sort of embodies. So, in one of my favorite books that I always like to look at for reference is the Library of Esoterica Tarot book by Toshin. They have a quote for each card in all across the 78 cards of tarot. And the quote for this one, the 5 of Wands, is restlessness, upheaval, and the desire to pursue new heights. Okay, so we also have that sort of in this cobra image, right? If you think of like, again, snake charming, like the snakes usually like come up and kind of go back down. The 5 of Wands connotes competition, rivalries, and the challenges in our struggle for attainment. Um, and again, that's from the Library of Esoterica Tarot book by Toshin, which has beautiful imagery of different decks and the ways that they depict different cards. So other books that I'm going to be, sort of referencing today are The Fearless Tarot by Elliot Adam, How to Give a Positive Reading in Any Situation. I love using this book on this podcast because it has great sort of descriptions, it has sort of usually a black and white image of the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith depiction of the card. So when I look at this one, the sort of traditional depiction is like 5 men or like people, and they all are sort of like they have these huge wands, like almost like it's like a tree trunk. And they're all, I guess, like they're not that massive, but they're taller than them, and each of them has like one of them, and they're all sort of like grabbing onto other of the like logs, or they're all sort of like very close to each other, but then each trying to like vie for maybe attention or just sort of like, oh, okay, oh, this is in the way, and like it just seems very interwoven. It says the Five of Wands is all about the immaturity of the comparison game. The Five of Wands traditionally represents competition, ambition, and struggle. It symbolizes the inner tension we feel when we are caught up in our egos, constantly comparing our status in relation to others. Early on, kids are taught you must be a winner. Life is a series of competitions: best at music, best at Monopoly, best at softball, best at spelling. You must win at each thing you try, otherwise you might be a loser, a nothing, or a failure at life. The sort of all or nothing thinking sets up impossible standards that can never be attained. As kids grow into adulthood, they carry this toxic baggage, feeling that there is something wrong with them. No wonder so many adults struggle with self-esteem. Do you constantly compare your status with that of others? Do you feel that you must be perfect at everything? Have you ever stopped to think how adolescent that mentality is? The adolescents on this card are competing. Each is trying to prove that he has the biggest stick. Each of the competitors thinks that there can only be one winner. Um, yeah, so this is sort of like the traditional depiction on the card. Again, none of the decks I have are going with like have that many like people on it in that way, that the sort of traditional depiction does. Um, but yeah, it's really this like comparing of self-worth and like this game of sticks, all or nothing thinking. Um, right? Like this idea that, oh, we can achieve perfection or be the smartest person in the world or be the best at every sport or every language, um, right? Especially now with like social media or just like having a lot of awareness of other folks all over the world. Like there's so many more people to compare to now than there once was. And so it can really make us feel very down. So when the Five of Wands appears, catch yourself if you're playing the game of big sticks. It's ridiculous. You don't have to win at everything to be worthy. You are special and unique, and you radiate a beauty that is all your own. Nobody does you like you. They say their favorite entertainer, Judy Garland, used to say, always try to be a first-rate version of yourself as opposed to a second-rate version of someone else. So again, really about that comparison. And fives, um, are often, so again, if we think about sort of the journey in the minor arcana, aces are the beginning, tens are often like the finality or like the wrap up, the conclusion of like the journey. So fives, right, are right in the middle, right in that like restless limbo state. So fives traditionally in tarot are all a little like kind of like challenging cards. Um, and so this one is right in line with that. Let's look at tarot and its relation to astrology for this card. I'm reading my tarot and astrology book by Corinne Kenner. So it talks about that the Five of Wands is associated with Saturn in Leo. And Leos in the zodiac can sometimes be depicted as like self-centered or like the limelight is on them. Right? They like to go their own way. Sometimes the star of the show. They're also a sign of courage and fortitude. They often, right, are seen as corresponding with the strength card. So their correspondence with this major arcana card and the strength. So Leos are often depicted like as lions in the zodiac, or as like light. And the strength card often has like a lion on it or like a big cat or like a figure of some kind. This sign is ruled by the sun, and right, the sun is the center of our universe here, and Leos used to be in the center of attention. So, right, in sort of the worst case scenario, the astrological influence can lead to like boldness, cruelty, lust, and violence for people that, right, when people think that they're the center of the universe, there's sort of like these two sides to it, right? In some ways, it can be good and helpful because, right, if you sort of have um, challenges with sort of stepping up or showing yourself off or like stepping into your own power, right, that can be sort of like a negative thing or it can take a lot of like self esteem or confidence that a lot of us have maybe been told that we shouldn't have, right, especially if we were in this comparison. But also, it can sort of, the shadow side of that is this sort of like cruelty or lust or violence. And if you live in the United States or pay attention to the current politics at all, I would say we have a current leader that leads into this boldness, cruelty, lust, and violence in a lot of ways. Um, so if we think about, so what's often portrayed on this card, which are these like adolescents, so young magicians, if you want to accomplish anything as a part of a group, you have to need the discipline and structure that Saturn, the planet of framework, can bring. Of course, rivalries can ensue, but in this case, Saturn will direct their energy through regulated channels. The resulting competition will help their skills improve faster and more efficiently than even the most dutiful, self-motivated student could master on their own. In the end, they'll be masters of the physical and spiritual world as seen on the world card itself. So the Golden Dawn designers of this card called it the Lord of Strife. So again, right, we have this sort of level of like competition, rivalry, but also strife used to really refer to this like strenuous or like hardworking effort. So it's also this aspect of, right, that you're really working hard to try to achieve something, right? It's not coming easy right now, which again is why fives are often seen as like a challenging card or like not that when you pull one or something like that, it's indicating you're either going through a lot of like restlessness or upheaval or right that is like sort of happening or gonna happen in a situation. Um, but also that, right, like they say in this, that like, okay, one person, right, you can work really hard, you can do all the things, you can plan and this or that, but if you worked with four other people and you were all working sort of on the same team and towards a singular goal, right, you can get a lot more done than just one person working as hard as they possibly can. Um, what else? So yeah, in a tarot reading, the Five of Wands often represents like a battle, an adolescent conflict, effort, and opposition. And Leo, right, usually falls in like the summer months between July 22nd and August 1st. So, right, that is also, at least in sort of the northern hemisphere, that is very close to the summer solstice when the sun is like at its, you know, brightest, the most hours per day. And so also it's sort of like, right, it can really shine light metaphorically, right, on these things that maybe like we don't always like about ourselves, right, or that like, oh, where we can fall into this level of comparison. Okay. And then finally, in the Tarot for Change book by Jessica Dorr, using the cards for self care and acceptance, they talk about the Five of Wands. They like to use tarot to with other people to allow the different cards to represent various parts that are in conflict when someone shows up feeling stuck, and then validating that each part's right to exist. So again, this book is sort of like a psychological or psychology take on tarot. So they're talking about parts work, internal family systems model of psychotherapy developed by Richard Schwartz. And in that style of therapy, when sort of something comes up, you sort of figure out, okay, what is that part of you want, right? We all have lots of different parts of ourselves. We have these sort of like internal family members that, right, we take on maybe voices that we heard as a child from parents or caregivers or siblings, and maybe the not so nice things they said about us. And we sort of embody them sometimes and take them on as our own. So if you think about sort of this Five of Wands card, right, that there's five different people on it and they're all sort of like kind of in conflict and kind of clearly like not going on the same path together. They're not trying to like, they don't look like they're trying to build a singular structure together. They all look like they're trying to lead the way. And so you can sort of imagine this of like different parts of yourself, right? That sometimes if we don't allow all of those parts of ourselves to kind of like interact or again work towards the same things, they can all often be in conflict. And sometimes when we like reject parts of ourselves, when we say, oh, I shouldn't feel that way, or like other people have it worse, or well, that's not actually true, I know that that's not true what that person said about me, even though, right, every time that I think about it I get really triggered and it impacts me. That the parts that we attempt to silence or reject have a way of coming back louder and more convincing or showing up in unexpected ways that undermine what decisions we've been able to make. Um, it talks about that a person who's debating how and when to leave a cushy but unfulfilling job to pursue something that's more personally meaningful would do well to identify each internal stakeholder as a way of moving towards some kind of agreement. So you can even do this with tarot. So, right, the Queen of Pentacles might represent the part of them that has a deep need for security. And again, Pentacles are about like material goods, the material realm, like physical things, like houses or safety, feeling secure. Where the Page of Wands could signify the part that has a deep desire to take risks and explore. Maybe this person grew up poor with a lot of insecurity around their basic needs being met. And so maybe their need to feel safe, right? Like that came from a place of something that they really needed when they were a child, right? But maybe in their present reality, they've gotten themselves to a place where they feel safe enough to take risks and create some new learning. And so, like the Page of Wands is a way to kind of like think about that and sort of work with the part of ourself um, that was maybe again sort of like triggered in this way, or that's we're still holding on to, even though maybe we don't want to be holding on to that anymore, right? Where we're like, no, okay, I'm fine now, right? Like I actually have a roof over my head. I feel safe. I have people in my life that love me and care for me. I have enough food to eat. I have my basic needs met, but there's still this part of me that, right, is very scared to take risks because what if it all goes away? What if, right, I lose some of those things that are very precious to me that I worked very hard to attain. And so sometimes when we're able to like accept, we think about the five people and the Five of Wands or the five wands together, we can accept these sort of five different versions of ourselves or things like that instead of trying to, like when we think about the like depiction of like the angel or the devil on your shoulder, right? That's kind of like two conflicting things. So five is right, like that's a lot more. And I would say like a lot of people feel like they have more than just like two parts of themselves. They have sort of, right, we have more complexity than that. That sometimes it can help us to stop trying to pick sides, right, and instead aim to see from multiple perspectives and open up to possibilities beyond the either or framework or beyond the binary or black and white thinking or sort of that angel and devil idea, right? It's not that all things are good or bad or angelic or devilish or the right thing or the wrong thing to do, right? We can have decisions that would make sense over a variety of situations. And we have to, right, sometimes be able to hold the fact that it's not an easy answer, that there's not just like one right way and one way that doesn't work well for us. And they're sort of talking about that this card can kind of help us, right, allow for those sort of complexities of self. What happens when we step back and we make space for all of the parts to exist is that we realize we don't actually have to choose one and get rid of another in order to move forward. The five characters in the Five of Wands image are bumping up against each other and not much is getting done, but none are in actual danger. They're just different. Ultimately, it's the part of us that looks over the Five of Wands from a bit of distance that does the decision making, not any one part of the image. When we see the parts there in front of us, as this image invites us to do, we realize on an experiential level that who we truly are is probably not any single one of those parts, right? And therefore, it's not the task to choose one. There is no right way or wrong way, that we get to be the sky. And it says that as Buddhist nun Pema Chodron says, and realize that everything else is just the weather. Um, that right, we don't actually have, that there is not just like a right way and a wrong way. We can accept all these different right complexities of ourselves or nuances. And I think a lot of times, if we're able to do that with others too, accept that they're not just one thing, or accept that they weren't raised exactly like you, or that they might not make the same decisions as you, that that's okay, and that we can have like these complexities of self. Okay, so I am going to go ahead. Let's dive in and see what the cards have to say today on this topic. So I'm going to be pulling from my Desert Illuminations Tarot deck by Lindsay D. Williams. I'm going to shuffle a couple times, and I'm going to be thinking about, so go ahead and grab your deck if you want to go along with me. I'm going to be thinking about, what do we need to know on this topic? Where are parts of our life where maybe conflict or rivalry or competition is coming up? How can we accept these different parts of ourselves? How can we, right, maybe get through or hold space for the restlessness, the upheaval, and our desire to pursue new heights, right? Again, think about the cobra, if that's helpful, right? How do we rise up in that way? How do we think about the things that we're struggling with and try to hold multiple realities at once and hold the fact that maybe there isn't just one right answer, right? Maybe when you think about some of the decisions that need to be made or that you feel really conflicted about, that maybe, right, all of them, you could pick any of them and maybe everything would still go your way no matter what. But it's just sort of trying to figure out, okay, what's the one that feels best right now? Where's my intuition leading me? Where can I, work together with these different parts of myself? How can I maybe integrate or think about or allow for these different, these 5 different people inside me, for example, with this card that have different, right, opinions and life stories and ways that they maybe want to live their life, and to kind of allow for all of them, or to imagine a world in which, again, like I said, it's not that there's like the angel on your shoulder telling you this is the thing you should do, and the devil on your shoulder saying, oh no, like this is it, you should go down this road. That maybe, right, we can tap into this larger reality of, okay, maybe there's like 5 different roads in front of me. Maybe there's, right, 5 different things that I could work on, and maybe I want to work on this one first, and that's fine. But I also know that these other 4 are hanging out there. And when I have time and space and mental readiness, or I'm at a place in my life where that feels good, I can, come back to those things. I can accept that, right, this hobby that I had when I was younger, that I maybe haven't had time for recently, that maybe I want to get back into, like, that's great. But also, right, we can't do that with every single thing. Right, we would get burned out or overburdened, right? Sometimes that's the thing that happens, I would say, on like social media or with comparison, right? It's like even when we're doing the like 3 out of 5 things that we really want to do, if someone else is doing the 2 out of 5 that we're not doing, we feel really bad about that, right? And we imagine that, oh, okay, really I should be doing the 5 out of 5 things. And why can't I just take on more? Why can't I just be like them and do those 2 out of 5 that don't come naturally to me? All right, so that was a long little rant there, but you can go ahead, stop shuffling. I like to cut my deck, and I'm going to flip over the card. Okay, so I actually pulled a Wands card. I pulled the King of Chilies reversed. So in this deck, chilies are the equivalent to wands because they are spicy, fiery. Just like wands are, they have that vocal energy, the spiciness, right, that adds heat to our food, to our lives. Okay, so the King of Chilies, right, this is it's considered like a court card, right? The king would be of the sort of hierarchical court, but it is in reverse. So I'm gonna look that up. Okay. So we're here with chilies, which, like I said, are like wands. And this deck, this is like the last card of the deck. So King of Chilies, I'm gonna read it upright. So if I pulled it with it facing this way, and then I'll try to interpret what I think the reversal is about. So it says, the King of Chilies is a noble and energetic king. He sits on his throne as the sun charges him with all the life force and energy he needs to overcome any obstacle or task ahead of him. He is dressed in a decorative robe woven with shapes and symbols representing his creativity and rich cultural heritage. A bundle of chili peppers hangs from his neck, symbolic of the driving force of his fiery personality. Many opportunities are being presented to you because of your bold persona. You have the power to create all the successes you want with passion and drive. You don't walk through your life unnoticed. Everything you touch turns to gold. You can channel the King of Chilies when you need to exude confidence and leadership. He is here to lend a hand when you need that extra push and energy to make things happen. All right, so we think about this in reverse. So, right, one interpretation of this could be in reverse means that, okay, we want to go through our life, or we don't want to walk through life unnoticed, right? We want to have this, everything I touch turns to gold. I want to, call in opportunities for me, but maybe just right now it's feeling like, okay, I want those things, but can I actually believe that it's going to happen, right? Can I actually believe that I can kind of get everything that I want and that nothing bad will happen, right? Maybe the shoe will not drop. Maybe I will get everything I want in life and I don't actually have to make these different choices. I don't have to choose the angel or the devil on my shoulder. Maybe, right, whatever I choose is the right way. So that would be one interpretation, right? Is just that sort of, okay, we're working on achieving that. Another interpretation of this could be that, right, maybe you're exuding too much confidence in leadership, right? Maybe there's other people in your life or in a group setting where maybe you're taking up a little too much space, or you're trying to, make things happen, and maybe other people aren't ready for that yet. Sometimes this can be that sort of like restless energy. Sometimes it can be really challenging to be in relationship or sit with other people when maybe they're struggling in life and maybe if they're not doing something about it or if they're not doing enough in your mind, um, that maybe, it's either not bothering them as much as it is you, or maybe they're just kind of not quite ready to face it yet, or they don't feel able. In that sense. So this could be like another interpretation of that. And again, sort of on the topic that I was asking about, right? How can we move out of sort of competition or rivalry, and this sort of idea that, okay, only one person can make it to the top, and how do we move into a space, into collaboration or community where we help each other to the top, where we're not comparing in the sense that, oh, you have that and I don't have it, therefore I am a bad person, or therefore I'm not working hard enough. There's all sorts of ways to sort of interpret this here, but yeah, and again, they can all be true, right? all the different or reversal definitions of this can be true. The upright can be true, right? Or again, that we might be working towards that, waiting on that ability to overcome any obstacle or task that's ahead of you, right? Sort of sitting in your comfort, in your adornment, and your fiery personality and driving force of self, right? You can make things happen, right? Wands are all about creation, creative energy, the spark of an idea. Again, that you have the power to create all the success you want with passion and drive. You do. You have that power. So what are you going to do with it? Are you going to take action right now? Are you going to, can you believe it? Can you actually believe that that's true? That you can have all of those things and that you don't have to choose one thing or the other, that you can have it all? I think this is what this card is sort of calling us to think about. So I will stop there for today because we're getting a little long. So links for the tarot decks I talk about will always be in the show notes and on my website if you'd like to look at them or purchase them. And thanks for joining me today on Everyday Tarot. Just as a reminder, the podcast comes out daily, Monday through Friday for all of 2025. All right, see you soon. Bye-bye.